All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for coming. My name is Patrick Gallagher, and as we begin here tonight, I want to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so if you could stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So I'm Patrick Gallagher. I'm here with the Indivisible Whitfield-Murray County Patriots of Georgia's 14th District. We are a nonpartisan group with a few principles coming together because we think that certain elements of the political system today are taking this country backwards and must be stopped. We want to work together to achieve this goal, and we must model the values of inclusion, respect, fairness, and truthfulness. And we are a group committed to action. So we thank you for coming tonight. We're just the host for tonight, but this town hall is open to everyone. And there are two goals for tonight. One is to hold a town hall for our Congressman, Representative Tom Graves, in absentia. We say in absentia because there was a district work period last week, a 9-day period actually, in which Tom Graves did not hold, despite the request of hundreds of his constituents, did not hold a public town hall. He was in the district for a few days and held various meetings with special interest groups, but refused to make himself available for his wider constituency. So we are doing that for him in absentia. That's the first reason. The second reason is that Indivisible, at least the Indivisible who is hosting this gathering, is concerned that several of Tom Graves' views, his stances on issues, are against the interests of Whitfield and Murray County residents. So we intend to let him know that, let him know our views. Okay, so here's how this evening will work. Folks will raise their hand. There is a microphone being passed around. You receive the microphone and ask Tom Graves your question. And we'll go down the line like that. So who would like to open tonight? Who has the first question?
I've got one. I actually have two, but first and foremost is a question regarding U.S. House Resolution 610. First of all, I'm Susan Ridley, a resident of Chatsworth, Georgia, member of the Chatsworth, Georgia city. I have lived in Murray County all my life. And what I would like to ask Congressman is his stance on U.S. House Resolution 610. This is a startling bill to anyone who's been involved in public education in any capacity. As a parent, grandparent, or PTA member, let alone those of us who've served as local Board of Education members in the past 20 or 30 years. This bill abolishes the Nutritional Act of 2012, No Hungry Kids Act, which provides nutritional standards for our schools. It addresses the eradication of special provisions for special needs kids, Free Appropriate Public Education FAPE Act, also measures of the IDEA, which govern and regulate special needs children services. It also moves us towards voucher system, and every professional teachers organization in this country, or even small groups of friends who work in education in any capacity that I've spoken with, are against these movements. And yet your Secretary of Education seems pretty direct in saying this is the direction she's going to take us, so, or our Secretary of Education. So be that as it may, we don't necessarily agree, or I don't necessarily agree, along with great numbers of others, with these trends. And I'm very concerned about where you stand, and I want to know how you're going to address these measures and how you will react to these discussions.
Next question.
I'll go next. Representative Graves, my name is Dennis Jarvis. I'm a constituent from Murray County. I've been living in this area for over 30 years as a mental health care provider and a licensed marriage family therapist. With over 30 years experience, I'm very concerned with the proposed ACA replacement proposal, which would cut out mental health provision. This cut would have devastating effects on thousands of your constituents who suffer from depression, anxiety, veterans with PTSD, addiction, marital conflict, and other issues. My question is, will you oppose this proposed cut for the sake of your constituents? Thank you.
Representative Graves, my name's Ann McKinnon. I'm a resident of Murray County. I'm concerned about possible funding cuts to the Environmental Protection Agency. As a chemist and the mother of 4 children, I'm very aware of what can happen to our air and our water quality if we do not keep strict EPA standards. Because of strong EPA rules, our local stream and air quality has improved in the 30 years I've lived here. Local industries can no longer dump waste into our streams or release particulates and poisonous gases into the air. If they don't have these regulations, it's up to either the state or local individual industries to have enough humanity to care about possible results. I want our children and grandchildren to have the chance to grow up healthy and to have opportunities to hunt, fish, go tubing down the stream in the clear streams of our beautiful surroundings. Will you fight to protect the EPA from budget cuts?
Yeah.
Hi everybody, my name is Laura Virgo and I live in Dalton. And 4.5 years ago, my daughter was a freshman at Dalton High School. She was sitting in Miss Pepper's math class and she had a grand mal seizure. And since then, our lives have been a continual round of MRIs, EEGs, expensive medicines, and brain surgeries. I've had a crash course in dealing with our medical and insurance system. The only comfort that we've had through this process is that my daughter was protected by the ACA. We don't get our health insurance through the ACA. Our insurance comes from my husband's work, but the protections guaranteed in the Affordable Care Act protect everyone, even people who have private insurance through their employer. Before the ACA, most policies have a lifetime cap of $1 million. My daughter's had 2 brain surgeries and will have to be on medication for the rest of her life. I've done the math, and I figured that she will hit her lifetime cap before her 21st birthday. If the ACA is repealed, she will be kicked off our insurance and will be uninsurable. Under the ACA, she will be able to stay on our insurance until she's 26. Before the ACA, kids could stay on their parents' insurance only as long as they were full-time students. She's had her 2nd brain surgery last June. She started classes at Dalton State in August, but because of the continuing challenges, she's not able to take a full load of classes, so she was not a full-time student. So if they repeal the ACA, she'll be kicked off our insurance because she's not a full-time student, and she will be uninsurable. Rosalind's dream since she was a little girl is to teach elementary school. She's faced more hardships and difficulties than any 18-year-old girl should ever have to face. She has goals and ambitions and works as hard as she can every day to do her best to keep moving forward. Repealing the ACA will steal my daughter's future. A starting teacher in Georgia earns about $46,000 a year. My daughter's medications cost $48,000 a year without insurance. She will never earn enough money to pay for her medical expenses. None of the replacement plans that have been put forth by any Republicans in the last 8 years have dealt with pre-existing conditions. Congressman Graves, what are you going to do with the roughly 21,000 of your constituents who will lose their insurance directly if you repeal the ACA? And what are you going to do to keep the protections of the ACA for the tens of thousands of constituents who benefit from the end of lifetime cap, staying on their parents' insurance until 26, and the guarantee that people with pre-existing conditions can continue to get insurance.
Congressman Graves, what are you going to do with people like me? This isn't just a difference of political opinion. These are life and death situations for us. People like me who have pre-existing conditions, we need your help to make sure we are not overlooked and ignored and left without medical care. I am 18 years old and just starting my life. Please vote to save the Affordable Care Act so that I can ensure that I have a future.
Congressman Graves, I'm Carmen Schuler from Dalton, Georgia. I'm one of your many constituents who contacted you and asked you to have a town hall meeting with us, and we're here without you tonight. I wanted to let you know that I am appalled by your attempt to roll back the Dodd-Frank reform laws, which were passed after the 2008 financial crisis. You know the difficulties here in the tufted carpet industry of the world. Think back to 2008 and the years after. My neighbors had their homes foreclosed upon. Hundreds and hundreds of names every week in the Friday legal section of the paper were filled with people whose homes were being foreclosed on. Our other neighbors and family members lost their jobs because the carpet industry scaled back due to the crisis. We can remember driving by the empty carpet mills and by the trucking companies where the trucks were just sitting there in the lots with nothing to deliver. Other of our neighbors took pay cuts and struggled to just put food on the table. They lost cars. They weren't able to pay for medical bills. The Dodd-Frank law was passed to prevent another financial crisis like the one that devastated Whitfield County. Why do you want to repeal it? Why are you more concerned with increasing the profits of big banks rather than protecting people's homes and jobs? And why are you not doing that?
My name is Marion Whiteside. I live in Crandall, Georgia, and I have watched this entire area fail most of the time because of the carpet mills, but they bought off letting other industry come into this area. President Trump keeps focusing on jobs stolen by China and Mexico. Research shows the real threat to American jobs is automation. Much of Northwest Georgia's carpet industry relies on manual labor, which could be automated. What are you going to do to prevent this or to support workers who may lose their jobs because of this? This goes back a long way on automation. I'm 75, but when I was 5 and 6 years old, my goal was to run an elevator because I loved going up in the elevator. Guess what? My job was ruled out before I ever hit the workforce. Y'all need to prepare for this.
Representative Graves, my name is Sherry Wilson. I'm from Dalton, Georgia. I'm concerned that you want to privatize Social Security and reduce my benefits. The nation had a discussion about this during George W. Bush's presidency and agreed it was a bad idea. I understand Social Security is a large part of the federal budget, but why is your solution to reduce benefits for seniors and disabled people who have paid into the system and depend on Social Security to get by, rather than requiring high-income people to continue to pay into the system?
Hello, Representative Graves. I'm a constituent from Chatsworth, Georgia. I'm concerned that you want to abolish the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The Bureau recently investigated Wells Fargo for creating millions of fake accounts by using customers' information And it sued a student loan company for not allowing students to lower the monthly payments. It also sued a pension company that defrauded our military veterans. Why do you want to gut this bureau? Why are you siding with Wall Street instead of young college graduates and veterans?
Representative Graves, my name is Sandra Pride, and I'm from Rocky Face. I want to know why you people want to do away with the caps on what the banks and other financial companies can charge on debit cards and overdrafts on checks and things like that. Rich people don't have to worry about this. But a poor man that's working 2 jobs to feed his family, he borrows money and you want to raise what he has to pay for it? That's indecent. That is indecent.
Other questions?
Representative Graves, my name is Jamie Gallagher. I'm a constituent from Dalton, Georgia. And Senator David Perdue recently introduced the RAISE Act, which will cut legally permitted immigration by 50%. Like many small towns and rural areas across the country, a significant percentage of Dalton's doctors, dentists, and professionals are foreign-born or the children of legal immigrants. My child's pediatrician is Syrian. My dentist is Indian. They're both wonderful healthcare providers and upstanding citizens. Do you support the RAISE Act? If so, why do you want to reduce my family's choice of doctors and dentists?
Representative Graves, my name is Erin Babb, and I'm a constituent that lives here in Dalton, Georgia. I'm not a professional activist, and I am not a paid protester. I understand that you voted yesterday to keep the American people from seeing President Trump's taxes. So my question is, in light of that, will you at least support the House Resolution 356 to establish an independent commission to investigate Russia's interference in our election?
Yes.
As well as...
Yes.
As well as any potential ties between the Trump campaign and Russian officials.
Upside down, right side up.
Hello, Representative Graves. I am a constituent from Dalton, Georgia. I live in the Pleasant Grove district. I'm concerned about your opposition to the fiduciary rule, which requires financial advisors to act in the best interest of their clients when they're investing for our retirements. My husband and I have worked hard. We've saved for retirement, but we're not stock market traders, and we're not financial gurus. So we rely on those advisors to guide us. I'm shocked that you don't think that it's necessary to hold financial advisors to the same standards that doctors and lawyers and millions of other businesses follow. You claim that the fiduciary rule would increase the cost for financial advisors, but there's no research to support your claim, or no independent research anyway. After all, acting in the best interest of a customer doesn't require additional expense. It just requires ethics.
Yeah.
So why, Congressman, do you want to allow financial advisors to act against my best interest and the best interest of others who are working hard to save their money for retirement? Why are you using your position as chair of the Financial Services Subcommittee to serve Wall Street financial advisors instead of the average working people of Georgia?
Yes. Hello, Representative Graves. My name is Jeff Adair, and I started working and paying into the system when I was 15. I worked my way through high school and college. I've spent several decades in Georgia working for the Department of Human Resources and the Department of Education as a psych rehab counselor and a school guidance counselor. I'm getting older and thinking about retirement and Medicare. Speaker Paul Ryan, his plan, which you support, would privatize Medicare for essentially turning it into a voucher system and increasing the age eligibility by 2 years to the age of 67, forcing me to wait even longer to buy expensive insurance on the open market, which is not nearly as good as Medicare. I've worked hard and paid into Medicare, like I said, all my life, expecting it to be there when I retire, as did a lot of folks in this area and in this room who voted, as well as a lot of people also that voted for Donald Trump because he said he wouldn't touch Medicare. Why do you want to shortchange our benefits?
Okay, a follow-up to some of the questions that have been posed to you thus far, because in many ways they all tie together into the web of supporting your district, remembering who elected you. Now I know that we've always been blessed in this area with, from my father's era, who was a World War II greatest generation member, watching the carpet industry grow. He said, you know, we got a lot more millionaires around here than most people realize, and that's true. But Representative Graves, a whole lot of us are not millionaires. We're the 98%, we're the 99%, and we need you to remember you work for us. Yes. You've forgotten us, sir. You have forgotten us, as is visible by your support of several of these key issues that have been brought out tonight. And specifically, the lady from Murray County who mentioned the EPA regulations and the dismantling of the EPA. When we read reports, or when I read reports, and I dare say she would be of the same mind, when we read reports that the Trump administration is proposing dismantling agencies like the EPA or the EPD in an effort to increase military funding, it's scary, sir. It's very scary. I can't consciously sit here and listen to these kinds of reports that are validated, factual, not fake news, but real news, and wonder, where are you? Where are you? Why aren't you supporting the people who have these concerns? The people whose sons and daughters will be boots on the ground if we go to these kinds of conflicts. Yeah, there was a big turnout and a demand for change, sir. And we still demand change. And I hope that you're going to listen to these urgings tonight from your constituency, because we're serious. We're really serious. And you should have been here to listen to us.
Other questions?
If you'd answered these, it would be good.
Let's get started. I'll follow up with what my friend here said. Congressman, I'm a constituent from Dalton, Georgia. My name is Patrick Gallagher. In early February, you introduced a bill yourself in your role as the Financial Services Subcommittee Chairman that would repeal rules that protect people who use prepaid debit cards from fraud when their card is lost or stolen. Right now, prepaid debit cards are protected almost like credit cards, meaning that unauthorized transactions can be easily disputed and resolved. Why do you want to eliminate these protections for average, responsible people, often younger people in college or right out of college, who are wary of credit cards, rightfully so, having seen their parents perhaps foul up, but want the convenience of paying with plastic? Why are you once again working for Wall Street instead of Northwest Georgians?
Yeah.
Who in the 14th District benefits from legislation that you introduce like this?
Yeah.
I'm still Laura Virgo. I'm still from Dalton. On a completely different subject, Dalton, Georgia is completely dependent on the carpet industry. That's our #1 industry. That's where the jobs are. We are dependent on immigrant labor in this town. A lot of the shifts, the second and third shifts at the carpet mills, almost all of them are completely immigrant labor. If they got up and walked out tomorrow, the carpet industry would collapse and our economy would collapse. And we saw this happen in Alabama when they passed laws that scared off the immigrants, the legal ones and the illegal ones, and agriculture rotted in the field. They had a lot of problems there. Congressman Graves, the carpet industry is the #1 industry in your district, and I want to know what you are going to do to protect the immigrant workers here, give them respect, make sure that they have good working conditions, and not run them out of town, because your district will collapse economically if you do not stand up for this industry. While I have the microphone, I want to just say one thing. This Thursday, I'm doing a visit to Congressman Graves' office in town, his local office, and I noticed that almost everybody had questions that they wrote out. And if you would let me, if you wanted to just leave them on the table as you left, maybe sign them and write if you're from Chatsworth or Dalton or anything, I will hand deliver them to his office. There's a group of us going to a meeting there. Anybody who wants to come, it's going to be Thursday at 3 o'clock in his office. It's on Thornton Avenue.
Nothing I've seen tonight or heard has anything to do with my main concern. My mother-in-law had 12 kids. I thank God only had one. My daughter had one. I don't want my granddaughter having a dozen. Yet it seems that everybody in the Republican Party thinks that birth control is a sin. People get over it.
My name's Gretchen Lukart. I'm from Rocky Face, Georgia. I'm one of your constituents. No one here tonight has mentioned climate change, global warming, but I think many people here know that this is a real thing, and we want you.
More than the API did.
Yeah, well, yeah. We want you and your fellow Republicans to admit that this is real science. It is not a joke. It is not something that around the world and also in places like Alaska, lives are changed even now because of climate change. It will only be a matter of time where it will be affecting all of us, even on a daily basis. So we want you to take this matter seriously and not pretend that it is just made up. Thank you.
My name is Chris Corbin. I live in Dalton, Georgia, and that is one of my major concerns and interest on your position, basically, of fracking. And I think that's the biggest threat at this point right now, because it seems like the fuel industry is going to natural gas, which supposedly is cleaner and better, but you have to make up your mind whether or not you want drinking water or do you want natural gas. Well, you know, Oklahoma and Texas and the rest.
You want water that catches on fire.
Fracking's bad.
Fracking is really bad. Yeah. But to protect it.
Other questions? Any softballs for the congressman?
Those are over.
Is he afraid of a 66-year-old woman with a cane?
Marion Whiteside, and I would like to ask him a personal favor on how he feels. Whenever he runs for election, he goes to town meetings to obtain votes. All of us, whether we're of either party or taxpayers, our tax money pays his salary and benefits. When he goes into but when he is in office, he only represents the party that he represents. He forgets the other half of taxpayers. He is supposed to work for us as well as his party voters.
Other questions?
My name is Richard Nowowski. My wife and I moved up here to retire our daughter 3 years ago. I'm retired military. I've been listening to all the points made here tonight. In some ways, I hate to change the subject, but I guess I'm, because of my background maybe, I'm more afraid of our military situation, particularly with the closeness to Russia. And Trump's comments about NATO really scare me, because if we lose NATO, I hope that Representative Graves, you're on top of this and are aware of the great, great danger to our country, particularly when the president is being advised by the advisors he's had, and I hear him say they want to just essentially crush all of the administrative functions of the government. That's all. And he mentioned the other day, to get the money to the military, he's going to raid the environmental and the State Department.
Yes.
So that means to me, and right now the guy he's got in the cabinet for state has nobody working for him.
Right.
And Trump doesn't even go to him for anything. And that to me means that apparently the White House is going to try to do all that on their own. And I don't know how that, I've been around the world going to embassies and that stuff for 22 years in the Navy. And I don't know what we'd do without our embassies, without our people. I'm scared of
Well, I'm also a veteran of the Army. Annie and I have two sons. One is Air Force. We have two sons that are active duty right now. One is in the Air Force, and one is in the Navy. Also a Navy man. He's on the Eisenhower. So we consider ourselves a very patriotic family. But we're really concerned about what is going on with Russia, what has gone on with Russia, the resistance to any kind of an investigation of this. This is insanity. I just... use his influence to push for an investigation. No foreign power should be able to manipulate our government in any way or our electoral process. And I'm really concerned about the weakening of NATO, because that has been a staunch support ever since the beginning of the Cold War, and it's helped to bring peace in this world. So I want to encourage him to do everything he can to push for an investigation and to strengthen NATO.
I'm Elizabeth Dalton, also from Murray County. I want to follow up on discussions about the EPA and doing away with it. How many of you are local enough and been here long enough to remember when Mill Creek was affectionately called Snake Creek?
Yes, ma'am.
We could go back to that if the EPA is damaged. When you could go to Chattanooga and you couldn't see from one side of the valley to the other because of the air pollution, and you had to take a shower when you got home because it was so dirty. We don't need to go back to that. So Representative Graves, fight to preserve the EPA.
Yes,
Well, Elizabeth, fellow Murray County, and just struck a chord. Yes, you're exactly right. I mean, you know, we don't have to get outside the Tennessee Valley area where we all live to know the differences. And certainly any of the photographs that could be Brooklyn to Manhattan would further demonstrate, or LA or any of them. But it's not just an out there issue. There are over 14,000 acres of Murray County, Georgia land that serve as the home of the largest, as far as I know, the largest land application wastewater treatment facility in the world.
Yep.
That land application sits over an aquifer. And if you don't know what an aquifer is, it's basically an underground lake that's of gigantic proportion and affects the groundwater table for 3 states. It's a backdoor issue, Representative Graves. It's a backdoor issue. Any industry, even one that we want to protect and see grow as we see the carpet industry, and it has been our economic thrust for many, many years, even that industry has to be regulated. Even that industry has to be held to higher standards for the quality of life for the people who live in that area. And finding that balance and keeping it under control for my kids and my grandkids and everybody else's in this room and all your other constituency is our obligation. And it's your obligation to help us. Do not let these maniacs destroy the agency that regulates our health, our welfare, our future, education, and the planet. 2 + 2 is 4. If we don't have it, we have no future. Protect it. Help us.
I'm Rosalind. Like my mom said, I'm in school at Dalton State College. I'm currently in education classes, and for one of my classes, I had to do a research paper. My topic, transgender bathroom laws. And the things I found were horrifying. The way these students are being treated is just monstrous. Are you really, Congresswoman Graves, are you really gonna be the one to look those students in the eye and say, you are lesser than your friends, than your peers? These students, under Title IX, they had rights, and those rights were just ripped away from them. Are you gonna be the one to tell them that for the rest of their life, they are not going to be treated the way that they deserve? Or are you going to do something? I hope it's the latter.
I agree with the last lady that spoke. Many of you are my age or close to it. When I grew up, we had fairs and circuses. People did not understand about Siamese twins. Siamese twins were considered freaks. People with deformities were considered freaks. They had to stand there and be mocked in order to get food and roof over their heads. We all know that it's nice to have babies. But God does allow children coming into this world to be Siamese twins, deformed in some way. Some babies have more hormones of one type than the other. And that is what people can't understand because you can't see the hormones. But she was talking about transgender. And on that, transgender, that is a very trying situation. But transgender is no different, or will not be any different in 30 years than Siamese twins were back in my day. Don't try to make them out as freaks. They were created. The most dangerous thing of this is, if you do believe in God, it tells you in Genesis and several other places in the Bible that we were created in His image. So that means He's like us, me, you, transgenders, Siamese twins, whatever. He says we are created in His image. And to defy that and to spit in God's face and say He did not know what He was doing when He let it be born that way, maybe that's why God's not as close to this country. We can't, they say it's a Christian nation, but they have not been acting as Christian. And this thing with the Jews, their stones being turned over. I had ancestors from Germany and Holland. My father and grandfather and great-grandmother were Jews. If they are alive somewhere out there in outer space, I know tears must be running down their face right now, because we are back to the 1930s right now. We have been set back simply because of Trump's campaign. And I expect more out of Graves, because we pay his salary, whether we're his party, independent, Republican, or Democrat. And you better remember where his paycheck comes from, because if he lets this get screwed up, he's not going to have a check coming either.
Congressman Graves, I'm a nurse practitioner in a local OBGYN office in your district, and we have a long-standing teenage pregnancy epidemic in this area. Since the ACA was implemented, long-acting reversible contraception, such as IUDs and contraceptive implants, are now covered 100% by most health insurance. These methods allow our young girls up to 5 to 10 years of pregnancy prevention to focus on their future and finish school. You cannot be ignorant of the economic and social consequences of unplanned pregnancies keeping our young women and couples in poverty. Why do you want to repeal the ACA and sabotage the future of these girls and young women who want to prevent pregnancy?
That's right.
Other questions?
It's not a question so much as a comment on immigration. There is not one person in here offhand whose ancestors hatched out here. All right, my last name is McKinnon. All right, that's from Scotland. So whether you came or immigrated over on the Mayflower or you came last week, we need to have open doors for law-abiding people. If people are going to contribute, then they should be allowed to work here and support their families. Anybody who's gone to undeveloped country and seen how people have to work all day to make $1 worth to buy 1 cup of beans can understand why people want to immigrate to somewhere where they can support their family. It's our strength, our melting pot strength. So get with it.
Congressman, there's been a lot of talk about immigrants this evening. I want to switch gears just a bit and talk about refugees. And just to clarify, to clear up the difference, sometimes there's confusion. Immigrants often cross borders for economic reasons, whereas refugees cross borders often fleeing war, persecution, similar to the religious persecution that founded this country. You've been conspicuously quiet about one of the larger stories of the past month, which is President Trump's executive order on refugees from 7 Muslim-majority nations banning entry, or trying to anyway. My wife and I teach English to a Sudanese family of 5, Sudan being one of the 7 countries we teach English to, a Sudanese family of 5 based in Chattanooga, and have been doing that for several months. In previous years, I've taught English to Iraqi and Irani refugees, all fleeing war, all fleeing persecution, all fleeing hell, coming to the United States, getting a second chance. And these are upstanding parents, incredibly bright and precocious children who are here to get a second chance. Congressman, the Christian values you espouse on the campaign trail are not being met by President Trump's executive order. Testament values that Jesus espouses, he was clear as day. He was unequivocal about our obligations to refugees, to streamers. Unequivocal. I wish you would continue to model Jesus in responding to President Trump's executive order on refugees.
Absolutely.
Also a comment about immigration. I was reading an article just a couple hours before I came over here from the Huffington Post, and a study that was done of the major countries, Japan, China, US, Canada, India, and looking at their foreseeable future financially, economically, based on their demographics. China, one child, policy for so long, they're really on a point of almost disaster because they have fewer people being born or that are working age to support the people that are retired. That's happened in a lot of other countries, mostly European. The thing that was interesting to me is they said, but the US and Canada, because of our immigration policy over the years, we do not have that same risk. Because younger people are the ones that are usually coming in from other countries. They have the stamina to do it. So they're coming in, they're working, and they're supporting the people as they get older and they and are not working. So, and that's the important thing, because we don't have a trust fund set up for Social Security. It's paid for the people that are working now, is paid to people that are currently retired. And that continues on. So you need that young base. Immigrants supply us that. They supplied us that for years. And it needs to continue, even if we only look at it selfishly from an economic standpoint.
My name is Octavio Perez, and I don't have a question, I just have a comment, probably about the only thing that I can speak about, immigration. It is a big difference between legal and illegal immigrants. I don't think, I came to this country because I wanted to. Most people come over here because they wanted to. But you can come legally or you can come illegally. And I think from the standpoint that you have to make a difference. Now, as far as the refugees is concerned, I think it's stopped at this point till they invent it better. Because I'm not prejudiced about their religion, and it's true that not all the Muslims are terrorists, but most of the terrorists are Muslims.
Timothy McVeigh wasn't.
I say most of them. I didn't say all, I said most of them. And you have to balance that. That's the only comment I have.
Thank you. Let me just respond to that quickly. Refugees are vetted already for 2 years by upwards of 15 different agencies, both in the United Nations and every intelligence agency we have in the United States. The vetting is already quite extensive. Further, Trump's own Department of Homeland Security issued a report, very inconvenient, late last week, saying that the 7 nations on that list pose no threat.
There have been no terrorists from those nations. No terrorists.
Yes, no Americans have died on U.S. soil as a result of attacks from those people from those 7 nations in 40 years, for as long as data has been kept. So it's a difficult issue, but that's my side.
Yeah, it's true that, first of all, my name's Fredrick, and I'm from Chatsworth, Georgia, and unfortunately I am one of your constituents. It's true that there is a difference between refugees and immigrants, and legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. But it's also a game that we get to play, that our present president, gets to play with the public in making out 8-year-olds, 4-year-olds, 12-year-olds, high school students who came with their family. Mom and dad didn't leave them at home, so to speak. They brought them with them to home, where they live. Family values. Now, I understand Mr. Perez can speak to this more closely because of his background. But ironically, I can speak pretty closely to it too. I've spent the last 20 years working with young students who play soccer. It's that funny game where you use your feet instead of your hands, unless you're the goalie. And I've coached boys from Dalton, your constituency, your district. From Chatsworth, your district. From Ringgold, I believe your district. From Gordon County, I believe your district. Many of whom were brought here when they were 2 or 3, maybe not even that old. And they went to our schools. And they graduated from our high schools. Some of them with excellent grades. Some of them with scholarships to go on to college, both academically, and I'll say it because I coached them, athletically, as soccer players. Some of them went back to represent their countries at the national level. And now we're going to say, we have the audacity to say that those young men and women are illegal, that those young men and women who have done everything that our children did, everything that was ever asked of them to do, and now they no longer have a place in our country? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Those children are hard-working, productive citizens of this community today. And sir, I'm here to tell you, as I look into the camera, forget who they are, forget who we are, and the day of reckoning is coming.
I hope so.
Thank you.
think in that case is a need to change the law.
The law was we did away with it.
No, it's not.
Good evening, Congressman Graves. My name is McCray Kyer. I'm a sophomore at Dalton State College. We've met several times. You've been to my church. And I'm glad refugees were brought up. And here's something that I propose that I could see both sides getting behind, at least in my mind. It would be good if you could get Congress to condemn Saudi Arabia and some of these other nations that have refugee camps set up. They have refugee camps that can hold 3 million refugees, and they're neighbors with these nations. And yet we are looked at bad when we say, well, we don't want to take this risk of welcoming these in. So I say, instead of arguing back and forth with whether to take them into our nation or not, let's start putting the pressure on their neighbors that have secure nations and some camps already built to hold refugees. Let's put the pressure on them to start accepting them and make them responsible for their culture and for their people group as well.
Any other questions? Mr. Cameraman?
I'll make a statement. This kind of piggybacks on that. Immigration, it piggybacks on a lot of things. It piggybacks on importation of goods, exportation of goods. And we have a disease that's permeating the world. It's called nationalism. And we've seen it before. We saw it in 1939 when Adolf Hitler took control of Europe. My father fought in World War II, so that we would never see fascism take root in this country. And I see it, we see it today, and we must stamp it out. And that's all I'm going to say. Congressman Rose. Let's not vote for nationalistic ideology. We are a global economy. The 787 Boeing that's built in South Carolina, it is truly a melting pot. Donald Trump wants to say that, oh, it's beautiful, it's great, it's delicious, it's made in South Carolina. Well, you know what? The wings are made in Japan. The instrumentation is made in Germany. It's truly a melting pot of technology. So this whole nationalistic pride thing has got to be stopped. And if you don't do that, Mr. Graves, we are coming after you.
Any last questions or comments?
Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who've come tonight from either party with the concerns we've expressed, I would ask you all to be of one mind and let's agree on this, one singular idea. This congressman will no longer be unopposed come election day. We need to see someone on the ballot that represents other ideology. Or you gotta change, Bob.
We just need to make sure that everyone signed the registration sheet at the back if they didn't sign on the way in.
It's not inexpensive to run, but we can raise the money.
My name is Lawrence Lazo. I live in Dalton, Georgia, constituent. On immigration, something was brought up about illegal, legal immigration. That term is relatively new, with the exception of the periods of time through our history where we've excluded, there was one point in time we excluded illiterate people, Chinese people, different things. It was all fear. Everything was fear-based. This day and age, it's south of the border. It's Mexican and beyond. And of course, what's really funny is the majority of the ones that are still immigrating up, Mexico is at basically zero immigration. Most of it's from Central and South America, but everybody says those Mexicans. So that's a nerve getter there. But to go to the immigration of who's legal and who isn't, I'm not sure when Mr. Perez, you came in. I do know I've got family in my Cuban, background that came over before a green card was required. It wasn't like it is now. You may have benefited from that. That was 1946 when basically you had to register to get a permanent status resident card. Before that, you came to America. You checked in if you wanted to become a citizen. You naturalized, through the same process, but there wasn't this border patrol thing that we see now. It wasn't like that. So to say, illegal, it's almost like I get the impression there's a lot of, starting with a certain generation that have this feeling, I'm in, but things got to change. We can't have them coming up. Well, 1946, that's, baby years going back compared to when this country started. There was a long, long period of time where our borders, they weren't exactly free and open. You did have to come in, you did have to contribute. Communities expected it, that's what they did. Do we want people coming in and breaking laws? No, nobody wants that. Nobody wants, to invite someone into your home and have them tear it up or harm somebody. That's a given. Nobody questions that. And our previous president, he increased exportations of people that were breaking the laws. He did more than Bush did, exporting people, deporting people that were breaking laws. What he wanted to protect were the ones that are wanting to contribute to our society, the good ones that are there. And yes, there's a lot of them because they're coming in trying to find an economic haven to benefit their families. So why just because, oh, you gotta have a green card, you don't have that? No, buy, stand in line. They have, there's all kinds of, rules and regulations, but, name a person in this country that doesn't bend or break regulations, but they're still basically a good citizen. These people come in, they just want to provide for their family. If that's what they're wanting to do, why should we be trying to round them up and send them off just because they don't have the little green card?
The thing that concerns me so much about the immigration issue and the words that we hear these days is it's opened it up for people to assume that you're illegal and you're a criminal just because you maybe don't look the way that the people in power seem to think you're supposed to look. A perfect example, my sister-in-law, who is Spanish and Hopi Indian, and she looks very Mexican around here. You would think she's Mexican, but she's not. In fact, they had been granted in California this huge Spanish land grant until it was taken away from them. So she's been in the United States, what is now the United States, a lot longer than any of us or her family has. But yet people are going to point at her and say, "Oh, look at her. She must be illegal." Not just that she's an immigrant or not just that she's whatever, but it's always referred as illegal and then criminal based on what we're hearing these days. And that's what really gets me, is trying to put everybody that doesn't look the way you think we should look into one box.
I just wanted to mention, adding on to what he said, that when people try to come in legally, it takes many years and a lot of money. And the people who need this so much don't have the time or the money in order to protect their families. And I think that's what we deal with most, is those people who can't do it legally.
They keep talking about 9/11. The guys that did 9/11 me. I'm just a hillbilly. Maybe I can think like those people. But I would dearly love to know what the rationale is for it. Trump Tower.
Yeah, last questions, and let's try to keep them questions towards the congressman.
Congressman, are you aware that different nationalities here for citizenship love one another? An example is, although I was raised Jewish, father, family, Methodist mother, and they were together until they died. This past 3 weeks ago, Israel took in 600 Muslim children that their parents had signed their rights away. Israel. And people ask me, how do you Jews get along with Muslims so well? I said, it's because we are both each secure in our own faith. And if you'll notice this week, when the Jewish tombstones were turned over, Muslims came to our aid, $100,000. When that happened in Tennessee, they donated money. When the Baptist church was burned to the ground in Mississippi or Alabama last year, the Muslims donated $50,000. Muslims and Jews will stick together. And I would think, now, well, my mother, she loved the book of Hebrews, and she would always say, with people you walked up and down the road, instead of a glass of water, she'd give them a glass of tea and a sandwich. And one day she did the peanut butter that way, and my brother said, why did you give them all the peanut butter? She said, because Jesus Christ said, I may come in another form. And you have done it unto the least of them, you've done it unto me. So my mother thought, it might be Jesus out there disguised. So we must remember that we never know who God is looking at.
One final question, anyone?
Congressman Graves, I hope you'll see a videotape of this meeting that we had here without you tonight. We're not that intimidating. Are you man enough that you can stand up with us the next time you have a break?
Congressman, your constituents were here. It's unfortunate you are not, but we hope you will hear us. We understand you're holding a telephone town hall tomorrow, and we hope you have the courage to answer some of these questions that have been presented today. I want to thank everyone for coming and appreciate the diverse views. On behalf of the Indivisible Patriots of the 14th District of Whitfield-Murray counties, I want to thank you for coming. Don't leave yet. We want to end with the national anthem.
Also wanted to point out, if you take one of the missing posters home with you, his Washington telephone number is on there, and I'd like to encourage each person in this room to call Congressman Graves' office and let him know that you held a town meeting without him, and state at least one of the questions that you heard here tonight when you call in as a constituent.
It's stand for the national anthem, and recall importantly, I think that we all are Americans, and I think that no matter our diverse views, we can pledge to put country above party, to put truth above party, and to put one another above party. Okay.
Joe, you want to lead it off? You're a vocal.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars